It's finally upon us. The Twisted and the Twilight for Total War Warhammer 2 is coming out just around the corner. And I've been granted early access from Creative Assembly for our video today to cover the new Wood Elf rework. Quick note up front, this is still a working build and some things might change before the full launch of the DLC in December. But we all know that Wood Elves have needed a rework for some time. Their old campaign mechanics were cumbersome and just really didn't age well compared to all of the in-depth Warhammer 2 mechanics we have received up to this point. You'll be able to find chapters within the timeline to just quickly navigate to any particular rework or feature you might want to be looking for or you're interested in getting information on. But we'll be covering the new research tree, the Amber system and building browser, the new Deeproots system, and lastly, the Heathland and Forest health systems. Before we get started, if you haven't picked up the DLC yet, you can find a link to my Nexus storefront in the description where you can purchase Twisted and the Twilight, which will grant you a direct Steam key. Nexus is pretty cool because it works hand in hand with the developers of games, so it's a bit more of a direct-to-consumer interaction than a lot of other affiliate programs. And it's just a great way to support the channel. So thank you very much if you use that link. But let's get started on our guide to the new Wood Elf rework, the Twisted and the Twilight. Starting out with the campaign for Orion, we're going to talk about research. And research itself has had a nice overhaul in the sense that we know the Amber system from old. The Amber system was cumbersome. It was attached to buildings. It was attached to the Oak of Ages, to units, to everything. Well, now it's only attached to research. So Amber's sole use is these specific 8 researches in the dead center here, with the wisdoms of respective trees. And for the most part, these will give you at least 1 campaign and 1 battle bonus. Some of them double up. I think Wisdom of the Pine here. Yeah, this is upkeep and construction time. But if I look at Wisdom of the Oak, this is income from settlement buildings, and then attribute expert charge defense for Eternal Guard units. So each one of these will give you something special depending upon what it is. And like I said, you're going to get something that is going to give you typically 1 campaign and 1 battle bonus, but it might be different. I'm just quickly going through all these real quick. You can jump back and pause if you want to look at a specific one. But the interesting thing too about the way that the technology tree is broken up is it's broken up into the Elvian Pantheon, into the Mandala. And we've got the Kadai on the top and the Sithrai on the bottom. Those guys are the evil ones, these guys are the good ones. And it kind of falls in line too with how those researches work. The top, for the most part, are campaign bonuses or attrition, income, armor, diplomacy, stuff that's a little bit more defensive. So if I'm just going to shoot over a couple of these armor bonuses, income bonuses here. Hoeth is going to give us our Lord and Hero recruitment ranks. Kuranos is going to give us bonuses for our hunting buildings, but weapon strength here. It's actually one of the only ones that gives us weapon strength in this top portion of the tree. Now, contrary to this, or I guess opposite this, we have got the Sithrai. And these guys, of course, are going to be a little bit more offensive. And we have some fun, interesting effects. Take a look at Elenil here. Gain +1 additional forest health, which we'll talk about, don't worry, for winning battles in magical forests or their heathlands. Now, you also get other things here, like enemy units are afflicted with temporary defensive penalties at the beginning of ambush battles, and ambush success chance has been increased by 20%. So moving through some of these, you can see how, okay, get some physical resistance, but you're going to get some melee attack, some weapon strength and fire resistance, a little bit of diplomacy here, some global recruitment. Mainly, this is going to help out mostly with military, but not entirely. As you can see, there are still some other benefits to this bottom line, which culminate in these 2 at the very end. We also have this really cool one here, Cain the Bloody-Handed God, which gives you recruitment rank for all units, ability of Heroic Killing Blow for all Glade Lords and Glade Captains. Glade Captain is going to be the new FLC that is granted through Total War Access. That's how you'll be getting that one. And then Attribute Cause Fear for all Elf units. So pretty sweet one right there. And this is the new research tree. It's been streamlined. It's a little bit better. It's more succinct. And I like that the Amber has been only, I guess it's been relegated to only the technology tree. And I like that more. I think it just kind of fits a little bit better because it's going to be a lot easier to talk about the building browser, our next section, when we remove Amber from that equation. So let's go into the building browser and how that works. Moving over to Taliesin here, we can see the building browser and we get a really good breakout of how this really works. So for one, you'll notice the provincial capital, or at least the settlement building on the left here, does not have a requirement for growth. In the Wood Elf campaign, growth has been replaced by kindred, turns until new kindred 13. And this works just in the same way as it normally does for growth. You build a growth building, it adds to that growth, and it makes it makes your kindred turn up faster. It's kind of more akin, no pun intended, please for the love of God, no puns, to the vampire coast mechanic with their ships. So you get kindred that you then use for your military support buildings, for your defense buildings, for your infrastructure buildings, either beyond tier 1, like in this case, or in tier 1, like in this case for the grapevines. But your military recruitment buildings and your landmark specific and your provincial capital or settlement buildings will not require kindred or growth, if you want to think of it that way. So you can really push up this as long as you've got the money. 4,000, 8,000, 12K, and then lastly at 16,000. So this creates an interesting dynamic. We've removed amber from the system, and you can see here that the Treemen doesn't require amber, the Forest Dragon doesn't require amber, so you can make whatever units you want. You are not restricted anymore by the use of amber. But you also see then that this is going to limit your Aserai Armory or your Eternal Watcher's Garrison. It does not limit the Skaven portion. That's not gated unless you want to go to the top portion with the Forest Patrols. So you can see how this has been a little bit more streamlined and easier to access. The building browser isn't gated by so many additional mechanics. I actually really like this. I like that it's easier to kind of move about. I feel like it's a little bit more engaging, and you can really focus each location based off of certain requirements. Like, hey, you know, I want this place to go really heavy into military support, so that's where I'm going to spend all my kindred. Or I want it to go really heavy into magic, so I'm going to make the Canopy of Haish here, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm really huge on the change to both magic and the building browser. I think it's a very, very nice addition. Let's take a look at some new things that have been added to the Wood Elf campaign that are entirely brand new. So the Deeproots are kind of interconnected with our next mechanic we're going to talk about after this, but let's isolate and just talk about this first. So you can see across the Mortal Empire's map a number of different forests. The Witchwood, Gain Vale, the Oak of Ages, Forest of Gloom, Griffinwood, Laurel Lauren Forest, and then down here with the Sacred Pools and Orion's Camp. So how this really works is you've got 5 levels of health, as it were. Oak of Ages is unique from the other one, so we'll go to Forest of Gloom real quick, then talk about the Oak of Ages. So from 0 to 19, 20 to 39, 40 to 59, 60 to 79, and then lastly 80 to 100. And these grant different bonuses depending on which wood that they are. So Forest of Gloom here is going to give us campaign range, movement range bonus, global recruitment capacity, and also forest health. Then Griffinwood, though, gives us recruitment cost. Laurel Lauren is going to give us income from all buildings. Gain Vale, Winds of Magic. Witchwood, research rate. All the way down here to the Sacred Pools, which is going to give us casualty replenishment rate. And then Orion's Camp is going to do unit experience gain per turn plus 200. So what's important about this is you can use the Deeproots to move to all of these locations on the map. All you simply have to do is place your character within what is called the magical forest. So for the Oak of Ages, this land right here, as you can see, is the magical forest. If I were to place Orion into the magical forest here, I'll pop him right there. I don't know if we'll be able to do it on this turn, but we'll find out. I'm just scuttling about. Yeah, looks like I can't do it on this turn, but a little icon appears above his head. We do this, and we can go to any one of these forests. And after doing that, you're locked there for 10 turns. You have a 10-turn cooldown before you can jump back. So this kind of prevents you from really abusing this system, and I'm all for it. I think it's really awesome because as you push these things all the way to the end, as you increase their forest health, you get a special rebirth button. So the Oak of Ages is unique in that it can go to 500. This is the center of the world roots. So this gives you growth upkeep, and cooldown for your Deeproots teleportation is reduced by 4, but it does reduce forest health by 8 per turn in this magical forest from natural decline. And when you reach that max point, when you get to 500, every location's got the button that you can press here to do your Ritual of Rebirth. And this allows you, this unlocks that top tier building. Now for the Oak of Ages, it's a tier 5 one, and you can see all the bonuses on the left side of the screen there: Public Order, Ward Save, Ammunition, Growth, Untainted. And this isn't just to that region, it's all armies for a lot of this stuff, right? Public Order, or I'm sorry, Ward Save, Ammunition, that's all armies. Attribute Vanguard deployment during forest battles, all armies. So it's a pretty beastly addition. Let's take a look though at the Forest of Gloom, which is going to give us the Shadow Groves of Loic. Enables Awakened Forest Attrition, Hero Action Success Chance plus 10%, Lord and Hero Recruitment Rank plus 3 for Lore of Shadows, and Recruitment Rank plus 3 for War Dancer and Bladesinger units. So you can see how these things can be pretty important, how you can warp across the map and take the advantage of them and expand yourself in ways that are much different than we usually get with the Wood Elf campaign. It used to just be, okay, I'm going to go into Deepwood stance and I'm just going to move all the way to the north because I'm Durthu and I'm going to burn my way up there. Now, you can just teleport to Lower Lorne Forest, expand your Wood Elf empire from there, or go down here to Orion's Camp and do it from there. So it makes the Wood Elf campaign a lot more dynamic. It makes it a lot more choose your own adventure. And what's fun about these Ritual of Rebirths is that it creates this King of the Hill moment. It's very similar to what you get whenever you do a ritual in the Vortex campaign. You're going to be attacked by a horde of Skaven and or Chaos, and they're going to come right for your tree, and you have to defend it. Once initiated, enemies will attack the region. Defend it until the ritual is complete for additional rewards. So you'll also get, of course, some additional boons added into the mix that play along with which forest you are doing the Ritual of Rebirth with. But the Deeproots, we had kind of speculated this, right? Like how this might be brought into the game. And I think it's a really cool visualization of this mechanic. They did take that idea of having instant teleportation into the game, but they also kind of curbed it and said, well, we can't just make it so you can teleport all the time. Here is a small cooldown on it. So I really appreciate and I like how the Deeproots work out. Now, in addition to the Deeproots, we have Heathland and Forest Health. Before we talk about that, though, I want to talk about forest invasions. You've probably seen this glowing glyph on the map here since we started the video. Well, if I hover over this, it says an enemy force is gathering strength here and will appear in 3 turns. Move a force here to attempt to ambush the foe. Even if you are defeated, they may be prevented from reaching full strength. So essentially, if you don't let this army completely come to, you ambush them and you start a quick battle, and if you finish them off, you get some bonuses, and you obviously destroy this marauding army. More often than not, it is Skaven. So if you don't do this, you basically have a rampaging Skaven force that grows in strength over time. This says in 3 turns. If I were to take care of this now, it'd be a weaker force than if I wait 3 turns and it says, hey, next turn, this thing's going to pop up. That's going to be a much stronger force. It's just like dealing with a rebellion. You know, as you let them grow in strength, they're going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So it is strong because when you look at your King's Glade, when you look at the, when you look at the actual building browser here, you can see how strong your garrisons can become. Here's just tier 2. 1 Glade Rider, 2 Dryads, 2 Eternal Guard, 1 Wildwood Ranger, 1 Treeman, Deepwood Scout, and 2 Glade Guard. And that's not with this building included into it. So your settlements can become very big, very fast, because the Wood Elf mechanic of creating outposts is still there. And we're going to go into that in just a little bit in our next segment here. But I think this is a cool way to kind of, and I talked to Indie Pride from Milk and Cookies Total War, and I really agree with his viewpoint on this, is that it prevents you from snowballing too hard. You do have to protect your lands from not just simply public order and farming rebellions. You also have to deal with the random forest invasions. And it also is extremely lore friendly too. So I really like that mechanic of pulling you into defending your hinterland, of doing these forest invasions and fighting those off. Let's jump over now to the Heathland and Forest Health to talk about the last new mechanic added with the Wood Elf rework. I lied, there's a whole nother mechanic in the new revamped offices totally forgot to talk about. So Let's talk about the Heathland and the forest health, then get to that. So the way that this works is when you look at your magical forest, which is a really ridiculous sentence to say out loud, you can see this little icon. This shows us all of the heathlands that attach to this forest that help increase its forest health. Carrick Buftar, Quenelle, Carrick Asgaraz, Castle Carcassonne, Esterspike, Padavon, and then Carrick Norn. Now, you don't have to control all of these. You either need to occupy them, raise them, or be allied, military or defensive, with one of the inhabitants on this list. And then they will contribute directly to this magical forest. And as you look at the other ones across the map, I don't think we can look at these from here. Yeah, but as you jump to them, you'll see those symbols, and you simply highlight them and it'll show you which ones it applies to. Even looking at this one, you can see that this applies to Forest the Oak of Ages right there. So it's very quick and easy to find out which ones you need to quickly get. Now, once you come over here, we're going to declare war on Quenelle. We're going to take it out, and I'll show you the options we get here. So we have two, right? Occupy the Heathland or clear the Heathland. And you get this icon here. This is the new forest health icon. So this will increase our forest health at +1 per turn to local magical forest while settlements remain occupied. Cure borders. Now you have a different option though. Ashen Fertilizer. Forest health +5 to the local magical forest, and then you get +1 to the local magical forest while settlement remains raised. So you have an option. Do you occupy and go the outpost route that we've had before in the Wood Elves, or do you clear it? Do you completely raise it to the ground and get these benefits? I'll click Occupy so you guys can also see this quick building browser as it's changed just a little bit here, but growth and construction cost reduction -5% for all buildings, all regions in adjacent provinces, which is nice. You get Sacrificial Grounds, which is also going to give you your Dryads. You get Wold Root Pathway, which is going to give you your Glade Guard. You get Waystone, which is going to help with growth and casualty replenishment, and then any resource building if there is one. So what that all equals though is this right here, your forest health. And if you hover over it, you're going to see what's going to add to its growth and add to its decline. Now, resolved encounters, battles and raising, pacified heathlands, forests healed, technology, and buildings all add to that growth. Let's jump back over here to technology. So when we look at, I think it's Wisdom of the Cypress, there it is, gain +5 additional forest health for raising heathlands. So what was once +5 now gives us +10. Elenil, Lord of Destruction here, is going to give us an additional +1 additional forest health for winning battles in magical forests or their heathlands. And then lastly, we have Kadai over here, Sadai, which is going to give us +1 per turn to all owned magical forests. So those are some really great ways to get some real quick forest health. And then also we have this building line will help us out as soon as we get to the branches of Gur, will help us with the +1 to magical forest health, as well as this line. As you go up there, there it is, +1, 2, 3, and lastly, no additional here, but this one gives us +3. So you use this forest health to obviously push yourself through these gauges, to get these benefits, to then trip off this ritual of rebirth. So you can see how the Deeproots are connected to this mechanic, and how the forest health mechanic and the heathlands are your real big driving force for the new campaign for the Wood Elves. It's really cool. It's very well-centered. I feel like you have a very clear-cut mission jumping into this, so I really enjoy this interpretation of the world roots and the magical forest, and keeping the forests kind of aligned into the Wood Elves. And I really like that. I like how you can go about using the alliance portion of it, or like in this case, you can see that's got a hostile presence. Hostile just means you're at war with them. So if I declare a peace treaty and then become an ally with Paravon, I don't have to worry about that anymore. So you don't have to fight and destroy every single one of these. You can simply do this through a diplomatic victory if you so wish. Now, the last thing I do quickly want to talk about are the new offices. So when I click offices here, we can see Orion's Chosen, Spirit of the Hunt. I'm going to hover over these so you can see them. And you can see Talon of Kurnos, Master of Supplies, Master of Drums, Herald of the Hunt, and then Master of the Scouts. And every single Wood Elf character, new and old, will have a different office. So do not expect these offices to play the same from character to character, obviously. And on top of that, each character also has different representations of how this office helps them out. This Lord will join the Wild Hunt, during which the strength of all the offices effects will be doubled. Entirely unique to Orion. So also, one last thing that they've added into the game too is the new Ancient Treemen and this right here, Blight of Terrors, Pageant of Shrikes. I think another one's called Murder of Spites. These are the old 6th edition, they were Fey spirits that you could add onto your character. So they've given this hard nod to them and brought them into the game by showing us this representation in Total War Warhammer. I can only show these two obviously right now, but as you play through, you'll be able to see some of these additional benefits that you can have on your Treemen to make them a bit cooler. I would have really liked to have seen the Glade Lords and the Glade Lord females have the option to be members of Kindred, but it looks like they have used the Kindred as the ability to just replace growth as your actual buildings. With that, we have the new Wood Elf rework covered. So let me know in the comment section below what you feel about this. So what are some things you really like about the rework? What are some things you're really not so crazy about? What are some things you really like or just would wish they were changed just a little bit? I know for myself, the one I just mentioned is probably the biggest one. I wish that the Lords had the ability to be specialized. And I've said this like through all of my Wood Elf speculation videos. I want to make it so that I can have a Glade Rider Lord or a Glade Guard Lord or something of the sort where I'm getting something similar to the Vampire Coast Captains in that they have a specialized use case, and I feel like every Lord I'm putting into a specific scenario maybe fits better into their office position. Remember, those offices are different for Durthu, just like they are for all the new characters coming to the Wood Elves. So please make sure you check those out. I'll be showcasing those on the channel. We have plenty more content to cover with Total War Warhammer 2's new DLC, the Twisted and the Twilight. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.